Don't you hate pants?
Here's Brunette. Brunette's in. Andrew Brunette shot score. Andrew Brunette in sudden death overtime. And Minnesota is moving on.
I won't need my high school diploma anymore. I am smart. I am smart. I am smart. I am smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-T.
Played here by Danny Heatley, and out they come 2-on-1. This is Niederreiter holding on to it, and he scores! Nino Niederreiter wins the series for the Minnesota Wild.
Welcome to another edition of Giles and the Goalies podcast. I am Giles Farrell, as always, joined by my partner in crime, if you will, Ben Remington.
Hello.
We are back in the, what is it, Cumulus?
Cumulus, yep.
Studios. So that means it's dark times once again.
That's actually a good point. I didn't think of that.
Cumulus appreciates that.
Yeah, we only come out here in the darkest of times.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Ooh, burn. We're joined by Tom Schreier of ColdOmaha.com.
Yep.
As always, the hot take artist himself.
Just burn it up.
Yep. It's going to get real hot in here in about 2 minutes. Yeah, did you guys enjoy the NFL draft?
Yeah, we had a reef out there. Sam Ekstrom, Luke Inman. We did it was supposed to be an hour-long show that became 2 yesterday. You can find it at coldomaha.com. They were happy about it, which is cool. It's nice to be happy about Minnesota sports, right?
Yeah, it's something that I actually tweeted out. I do follow college football a fair amount, even though I kind of loathe and despise the Minnesota Vikings. But so I was a pretty big fan of the Laquan Treadwell pick because I watched him play. I remember when he snapped his leg like a dry twig on the 1 yard line, and I knew that he's kind of a beast. But there's something that I tweeted the other day is. After that draft was, it's kind of refreshing to see Minnesota teams having good drafts recently. Like, obviously winning the lottery and getting Karl Anthony Towns is kind of a big deal. But aside from that, I've kind of warmed a little bit on Tyler J, the Twins' first-round pick from last year. Even though picking a college reliever is something that usually sends me into a violent rage.
Tyler Duffy worked out.
Yeah, I've warmed on it because I think his situation was a little unique, and I felt pretty good about the Wild draft last summer too. Joel Eriksson Ek obviously had a pretty good year over in Sweden as a 19-year-old, we probably should see him in a couple of years here. And then the Vikings seem to have a pretty good draft with Treadwell, and then stockpiling some other talent down the road and trading for some picks later and whatnot. So we're far removed from the days of Ndudi Ebe. And let's see who else. Matt Moses.
No, you needed to be
Zach
in here for
Phillips,
the last podcast to drop that.
Christian
name.
Ponder.
What else? Christian Ponder. Yeah, we're far removed from those days. So that's a good feeling. Yeah, James. We could go on. Basically, I don't know, from 2000 to 2010. There's so many Minnesota sports draft picks that you could just absolutely crap on.
The Wild alone, right? It was A.J. Thielen.
Yeah.
And Shepard was weird. He never played in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
I feel like even in San Jose, he was always there.
Did a disservice to him, but
yeah.
The other day on, I think it was NBC Sports or Sportsnet or something, they did a feature on the 2005 draft lottery, which was the Crosby draft, and it was kind of a weird. The odds were weird because it was the lockout year.
Yeah, so they just kind of went.
I remember watching this as they kept picking. The teams kept being revealed. And then they got to 15, the Wild weren't there. 10, the Wild weren't there.
Yeah.
They got to 5, and you're thinking,
yeah,
oh, my God, they're not there yet. And then, of course, they got the 4th pick.
Yeah.
And it was Pouliot, right?
Benoit Pouliot.
He's still in the league.
Yeah, he's making a name for himself
Third
up in Edmonton.
line analytics darling for the Edmonton Oilers.
Big difference maker.
That's always what you want out of number 4 overall pick.
Yeah, well, it's that's so. I don't know. I think we're in a good place. Certainly not going to bow at the feet of a lot of GMs in this town, but at least recently the draft picks have not been horrible from what I can tell. So
I thought you were talking about the Wild, and you said they were in a good place, and I was like,
Well,
Hey, Chuck.
Yeah.
Do we have Chuck Fletcher on the line?
I'm not saying that Chuck Fletcher is drafting guru or anything like that, but it seems lately, with Tuck, Dumba, Tuck, Eric Simek, I don't want to say he's on a good roll, but he's not doing bad.
Quick looking ahead, I did a very basic research on who could be available in the Wild pick at number 15 in the first round, and there could be a good mix of forwards that they could take from, and most notably Kiefer Bellows, who's a goal-scoring machine in the USHL. And it's not because of the Brian Bellows connection, but I think that's what they really need is kind of a goal scorer in the system. They don't have that at all.
No, they just signed Tuck, so that helps. But I would agree that it's they need. God forbid they sign another puck moving defenseman / two-way center.
Another two-way forward. That sells tickets.
Yeah. My theory here is that the Wild have drafted good players, and then outside of Granlund, who may be an injury, kind of like that's what happens. Not a good environment. Like you brought him into this environment where there's a divide in the locker room between the older and younger players. And Mike Yeo seemed to do his old job as as the head coach in the minors. He seemed to get everyone to the major league level, to the NHL level. But once they were there, it seemed like, I remember, again, I always reference this with the Tom Powers column where he called me Yo-bots, and he just created this weird mentality where, God forbid, you break out and try to score a goal. You got to stay in the structure. And that's my theory on this. I think they have more than enough talent, and they just have to realize you got to give the young guys, space to grow here, and you got to give them ice time, and you got to remember that Palmville's getting old. Preezy's injury seems pretty scary. Suter can't be on the ice the whole game. All this stuff. So I think they need to turn it over to the young guys at this point.
Yeah, that was actually an article that I wrote pretty much immediately after Mike Yeo was fired. Was that a big reason why is because of I identified, I think it was a core of like 6 players or so that are under 25 and kind of the young core of this team, and how in the last 3 years they had not only not really improved, but some of them had even regressed as far as looking last season to this season. And that was a big reason. That was obviously why he'd been fired, essentially. Because if you have, progression out of Granlund, Coyle, and whatever at that point, was the only one actually who had progressed from year to year.
And he hasn't hit his peak. I don't think
he's still got more to go, I think. That was something that actually Giles was nice enough to send over to Puck Daddy and got shared nationally. So, absolutely agree. Yeo was great at getting guys from the AHL to the NHL. Not great at getting guys from the NHL to the All-Star game. So,
and I go back to when you talk about the divide. I don't know how that happened, because someone needs to make it clear in there that like these older players like Pominville and Koivu and them, they're there to like help usher these young guys from, again, like NHL player to all-star. If they think it's something else, they're mistaken, because Koivu shouldn't be the leading scorer. I know he was, but that's your team's not good if he's the leading scorer. And maybe Thomas Vanek thinks he's a 30-goal scorer. Still, Nino's going to be. He should be the go-to guy. And it's indicative of the record, but also of the young players. Coyle gets hot and then cools down. Zucker gets hot, then cools down. Yeah. And that just shows me lack of leadership, lack of stability in the organization.
Here we are once again. Second year in a row, I believe we have been peddling this. Niederreiter can be a 30-goal scorer if you give him the ice time he so richly deserves. And I'd almost argue that he was their most valuable player this year. Very hot at the beginning. He had a little bit of a down period there in the middle, but then he picked it right back up again in the last part of the year. So I'd make a case for him as the MVP. I don't know how you feel about that.
The team kind of went as he went. Oddly enough, they started off really well, and so did he. But then, he was mired in a slump a little bit, and I don't know, maybe if coincidentally or not, but that was during the Wild slump. That was during the infamous 13 out of 14. And but as soon as Torch arrived, it felt like, he freed up some things a little bit. You saw a much different game out of Jason Pominville. You saw a much different game out of Eric Hawley. You saw a much different game out of Nino. And But I also think a fair criticism is that Torch, even after freeing him up, still didn't give him the ice time that he deserved. I mean, that was a very popular topic on Twitter during the playoff games, was that Nino was still only getting 14 to 15 minutes a game, which was very middle of the pack amongst forwards, and that was very frustrating. So I don't know. Hopefully, a lot of things are going to change with the new coach, and you got to hope that's one of them.
I think people always point to the players, especially young players, and say, well, either the scout messed up and they didn't get the right guy, right, or this guy's kind of a dog in it. And I find that hard to believe when you think these guys have every incentive to try to make more money, to try to be the star player. And I don't know, you go back to, I think Giles said this during the one where you had all of us on, during the, what was that? The
meltdown?
Meltdown, sure. Yeah.
We did a podcast at the Meltdown.
Giles doesn't remember saying this, but he probably, yeah.
Basically, that they in the beginning they said they were going to go through the draft, and this was going to be a team that was built with your 3 leaders, and then with everyone else underneath. And as much as everyone wanted Vanek, and it's easy, hindsight's 2020. My belief here is that it's not the team really that turns on a coach. It's your oldest players, the guys who wear letters, the guys who are, and Yo always had that funky line, even to the end. He, stood his ground, and I didn't defer to the older players. I just happened to play him at the end of the game, even when they weren't scoring, and so I'm fine with Fletcher taking some risks, but now I don't think he has a lot of draft picks. He's obviously given up second round or second. Yeah. I mean, and people wanted it. I mean, we talked about this last time. They wanted to fire him. What a cruel thing to give another GM and be like, hey, here you go. Here's a team that doesn't really get along, and they kind of live in their own world, and we don't have any draft picks. And, the best thing you can say about it is the ownership's good. They're going to be very loyal to you and give you a lot of money. But I'm actually glad that they kept him around, and they're like, fix this issue, Chuck. You have to, at this point. I think we'll learn a lot about this team, whether or not you go back to Torchetti or if they can go and get a guy like Bruce Boudreau. Because if Boudreau comes, there's something there. If they're not, they're just stuck with each other. John's smiling.
And the Boudreau thing is kind of the topic of the week. Obviously, he just got fired on Friday. It's going to be he's been unemployed a lot longer than he was last time. But it seems to be, it'll be very interesting to see, because I gotta think that it's up to him. You gotta think that between Minnesota and Ottawa, those are basically the 2 landing spots that he would be looking at, and he gets his pick. You would hope, at least. Obviously nobody probably really knows definitively, but you gotta think both GMs have reached out to him and said, hey, we'd love to hire you tomorrow. And then from there it's the ball's in his court. So that's going to be interesting, because if they don't get Boudreau, then either Ottawa or Minnesota really is kind of up the creek. Ottawa can hire Mike Yeo, I guess, but
Ottawa's already up the creek.
That's
Eugene
true.
Melnick is about as nuts as it gets in.
Sports. For sure, and that could be what pushes Boudreau away from taking that job.
I hope so.
Where you would think of an owner, met Leopold and saw his track record, you'd like him. I mean, he seems very into stability and willing to spend, and is engaged with the team. And so you would think there'd be a leg up, and you'd think you'd want to be in this hockey mad market where you have supposedly 2 premier players with Parise and Suter and this young core that you could do something with. I mean, as much as they've really kind of messed this up, very almost like it's almost like an effort. Like, I don't know how you get this bad, but as much as they've kind of created this chaos in their own locker room, you think you could dig out of it, if anything, by bringing in a coach who's just straight with the team and being like, look, we're not having a divide in this locker room, because it's clearly the young players who are our hope,
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've said to people who've asked me what can fix this team. I was like, well, nothing really. But really, you kind of have to hope that a coach is the silver bullet here, because that's all you have left. You're not going out and getting a high buck free agent. It's just not really happening. You're not going to be able to move some of the guys that you're disappointed with, because nobody's taking on those contracts. So you really just kind of have to hope that you find a coach, whether it's Boudreau or otherwise, that comes in and completely changes the culture of this team. Kind of like what we saw with Mike Zimmer. Not that the Vikings were nearly that fractured when he took over, but I mean, he really, you can't argue, he definitely changed the culture of that football team. And so you kind of hope for a similar kind of effect from whoever the Wild managed to land this summer.
I think there's a parallel between Les Frazier and Mike Yeo in that they're both really good guys. Right. And I think probably pretty smart, but
Giles is excited over this.
I'm curious. Might get assassinated for making that comparison.
I mean,
I don't think it's that far off.
I mean, my thing is, I think if you look back, you step back and look at it objectively, as someone who's a hockey fan in Montreal, I think I said this last time, but Montreal, Philadelphia, or whatever, I think you'd look back and you'd be like, why did they have the youngest coach in the league, or a very young coach with no experience, trying to control a locker room full of guys who need to win now and guys who need ice time to develop? Yeah. This is not a simple task, and I think. I think people get so zoomed into it and almost kind of tunnel vision, because they're it's like me. I really kind of watch the Wild, and then I watch the rest of the league if there's not a basketball game on this, like the Wolves game that night, or not a Wild game that night. Sure. The Wild are kind of my primary viewing for the NHL. And I think when you take a step back, you go, man, that was just a bad idea. Of course this spun out of control because this guy just hasn't been in a situation before where you have to balance this all out. And yeah, you might not like that comparison, but I think. Look, the Vikings got criticized when they fired Frazier, and they said, "Oh, this organization's going downhill, and they're the next Cleveland Browns." And that, I mean, this is national people. This isn't even just people here.
Sure.
And you hire the right guys. You get Zimmer and Turner, and you create some accountability. And guys, again, Zimmer's a guy who's first year coach, but we know he's kind of a hard ass and cracks down on these guys.
Yep.
If Boudreau comes in and doing the same thing, maybe people will go, "Man, the Wild were really good," and they'll be kind of shocked throughout the league. Because I think if you look at nationally, people just go, man, the Wild are just not good. They missed their window, basically.
Yeah, and I think that Mike Yeo, similar to Frazier, was maybe a good X's and O's type coach, but just seemed like they weren't able to manage the roster that they had. And that's ultimately Mike Yeo's downfall, is that like you said, like you wrote about just before he was fired, that it was similar to the Dave Blatt situation, in that he just, he got two superstars dropped on him, and then the complete dynamic of his job changed.
Yeah, he was a great hire. When you go back to Hitch or Yeo at the time that was a debate, Hitch was not the right guy for the young Wild.
For the team that they had,
Yeo was the perfect hire at that time. The problem is, you go a year ahead and you go, okay, you obviously would have gone Hitch, because you want the older guy who's kind of, no nonsense guy and has been in this situation before.
Yeah, so then now, I mean, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for somebody who, I don't think this team really needs, a super intensely systematic coach. And I don't know that Boudreau is that anyway, but what this team needs is somebody to manage the locker room. Needs somebody to manage the personalities in the room and divvy out the ice time and hold people responsible and tell the veterans, tell Ryan Suter, no, you're going to play with whoever the hell I tell you you're going to play with, and that's who you're going to play with. And
he's not afraid to do that.
Right.
I pointed that out on Friday, that he's not afraid to put guys down on the fourth line.
Yep, that's right.
This year, he had put Ryan Getzlaf on the fourth line at one point because he wasn't playing well.
Yeah.
So if you're not playing well, you're going to play less. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of why I'm big on the Boudreau bandwagon. He also has an incredible winning percentage.
I mean, the other thing too is Yeo seemed to be like he was taking such a hard stand by benching Vanek. You know what I mean? And and Torchetti came in and was like, yeah, Vanek's going to watch this from the press box. He can write a gamer if he wants. He's not he's not going to play in this game. And it was just such a weird. I think he's dealt with Ovechkin before, and he's dealt with a situation where Ovechkin will always be more powerful than the coach in Washington because he's on this big contract and he's basically signed through his lifetime.
Face of the franchise. Yeah.
And so he's not going to be scared by Parise and Suter and having to deal with that. And I actually think those two guys aren't that hard to deal with. I'm sure he can, he may say, look, we're not taking the C off, but Koivu, if you're a third line center, that's where you're going to play. Yeah. And I don't know what they're going to do with Vanek in the offseason, but he's like, I'm fine. If you need to go sit and watch the game up there, you're not taken away from the team. And that's the kind of coach they need here.
Yeah, somebody who's not afraid to do those kind of things and gets left. I mean, the whole Anaheim team had a brutal start. And, a lot of people give Boudreau a lot of credit because they came out of it. They came out of it and they won that division. Remember how terrible they were in
we
mid-November?
Thought he was going to be fired.
Yeah, it was Boudreau watch for the whole month of November almost because they were so, just abysmal. And he turned that team around and brought them to a division title. And, obviously, I don't know. I don't know if starting John Gibson was ultimately the move that did him in. But, they lose the first two to Nashville, win 3 straight, and then lose the last 2 to Nashville, and that cost him his job. So, I don't know. It seems like, he's still very well qualified and definitely the right person for the job. And I think every Minnesota fan that is going kind of bananas for him right now is absolutely right. I mean, he is exactly what this team needs, whether he was fairly fired or not.
There's another interesting point here. We're talking about head coaches you can maybe bring in, and this kind of got buried in the Boudreau was fired news on Friday. But in his 30 Thoughts column, Elliot Friedman said that Daryl Sutter of the Kings is doesn't have a contract going into next year.
Sure.
And theoretically, if he chooses not to come back, Minnesota could be knocking on his door. And he'd put Minnesota and him in the same sentence.
Yeah.
I kind of threw that out there, but again, it got buried in the Boudreau news. So I mean,
there's no doubt that the best teams in the Western Conference, by and large, are coached by veteran coaches, right? That's Chicago, that's LA.
Yep.
And even, it kind of pains me to say this, but the Wild, if they had done things differently, you could have maybe gone after Lindy Ruff if there was a vacancy open when you had Suter and Parise come in. And you could have had Laviolette when, I think it was the second swoon. I get them all mixed up. But one of these swoons they could have gotten. And I don't think Laviolette's a great
2
coach.
years ago, yeah.
But they're in the playoffs. And as much as you can say Anaheim choked, I don't think anyone really had Nashville winning that series. And that's, yeah, you got to give a guy credit when he took the Flyers to the Stanley Cup, right, in 09.
I mean, to be fair, I can't necessarily blame Bruce Boudreau when Corey Perry dekes around 3 defenders in Game 7, and then he puts the shot on an empty net off the side of the cage.
Yeah.
That's certainly not his fault.
Well, I also saw a stat, too, that Boudreau, they had kind of made a big hubbub about all these Game 7s that he's been losing, that his goalies have an .862 save percentage in those Game 7s. It's like, whoa, gee.
Yeah, whose fault is that?
Yeah, it's like, it was the same thing with firing Yeo last year. It was like, well, if you got poor goaltending, you've got poor goaltending. There's really not much you can do about it.
The really weird thing about Mike Yeo, and this is why I just want to make this clear, you couldn't fire him last year because they had the mumps and the goaltenders weren't very good. I mean, it's weird that 2 years ago it made perfect sense. When he stopped talking to his team, he'd be like, all right, we'll go get a veteran coach who can handle this situation.
Yeah.
Last year to fire him, I mean, especially with Suter lost his dad, Parise lost his dad, you had goaltending issues, mumps. I mean, it seems like everything could go wrong. When it went wrong this year, you had 52 points in the first half of the year. Yeah. What the hell?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you finish with 87 when you're projected to get 104 or whatever, on track to get 104?
Yeah, that's I don't know. That's what that 13 out of 14 will do to you. That's going to lose you your job just about every time.
And maybe that kind of falls on the general manager, who came out to face the media on Thursday.
Yeah,
Thursday. We talked about that before the show, but damned if I can remember.
It wouldn't be the first time you forgot something on the show, Giles.
No, every week I have to ask you, did I say this?
I get DMs all the time. Hey, did I tell this story? Yeah, you did. Okay.
No, and this was, big talk or discussion, and Chuck Fletcher came out and basically he got, kind of irritated when his team got criticized and basically gave him a big vote of confidence and basically saying, yeah, there's nothing wrong here.
I mean,
what?
My analogy, again, this is going to get me assassinated, as Giles said.
Sorry, I've been watching The Americans, so I have spy talk in my head.
I might have to duck after making this comment, but I covered the Twins, obviously, and I look at a team that, they have the same guys pretty much all the time. It's Terry Ryan's been GM forever, except for that small hiatus. They bring back Gardenhire. Tom Kelly's still around. Molitor played for them, hometown guy. And, they're accountable. They seem... maybe not with it all the time, but they seem pretty honest about their condition, about they're losing and they need to turn it around and this and that, and honest with the players they have. And they do a lot of things right in terms of how they treat people in the organization and kind of getting these young guys to, they get the experience of working with Gardenhire and Kelly, who had success in Minnesota before. The flip side is they're probably not the most analytical or kind of, frontward thinking team, right? Because you have all these old guys, and I don't know how you get, innovation when everyone's kind of doing the same thing they've done all along.
Yep.
I'd say the Wild are the exact opposite. The Wild had smart people in there when you had Yeo, really smart coach, Fletcher, who on paper put together a great team, but just almost completely disregarded the human side of the game. And we're like, maybe this isn't a great idea to have all these old guys and all these young guys. And maybe something went wrong there. And I think we'll find it out. I think it'll be a weird comment that someone who was on this team, who goes on to a different team, tells some beat writer like off on the side, like, oh yeah, that Minnesota situation was really bad. and Russo will find it and then, it'll get traced back to us or something.
We haven't heard it yet. I mean,
I was waiting for that to come out.
Yeah, there's plenty. I mean, Stoner, kind of shredded Yo and his overusage of Ryan Suter, and everyone's just like, yeah, no, we don't disagree with you, but you're still just kind of being a baby about
Clayton
it.
Stoner.
Yeah, and you're Clayton Stoner.
Well, and the other guy was the guy with the rabbit. Who was that, Konopka or whatever?
Yeah, Yo must...
Hoppy no like Yo.
Hoppy.
Freaking Hoppy.
But, I'm surprised we didn't hear it out of, I don't know that Kyle Brodzak is that type of guy, but just hearing it out of something like that, and I guess...
You know who it would be is Chris Porter wants to be here. If they let him go, wherever he goes next. It's not like he'd go out of his way, but I feel like some reporter will sit down and talk to him.
I don't know that he would because he's Preezy's buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I could see Suter doing it. Suter has this big contract and in the past hasn't cared what he said. He always walks it back the next day. But
you know what? No, it'll really be Jason Zucker when he's moved.
Oh, yeah, that's a good call.
I don't doubt that.
And I think honestly there's something that went wrong there. There's just no way this team was that bad. I mean, it just, if you look at how they played in the first half, and you said almost from the second half of last season to the first half of this season, they were the best team in the NHL.
Yep. Break to break.
And even with the divide they had, that shouldn't be something to overcome. First of all, you're getting that. The coach that comes in this year, whether it's Torch or someone else, knows that when they get the job. Yeah. And secondly, it's not a bad thing to have leadership if they're leaders. And I don't know, again, it's hard to tell, even if you have access to the team, you're not in the, there's certain periods you're not, seeing what goes behind the scenes. I don't know what kind of leader Mikko Koivu is, and if he's one that's just kind of out for himself, that's not any good. And with Preezy and Suter, it seems like they are until things get really bad, and then I don't know. It seems like they're not. It takes more than that or they should be doing more, I guess, to get the young guys involved and stuff like that.
Yeah, and Russo, obviously spends more time with the team than anybody, and he's even, that's something that has come out of him this year, is that he's. The locker room seems very fractured with the veterans and the younger kids, and even, so much as Zach Parese's attitude being called into question, which was something we never imagined before this season. But, I think that's telling. I think that's incredibly telling that, Russo, of all people, would be willing to go out and actually say that kind of stuff publicly on his podcast and in articles and whatnot, that, there's an attitude problem in this locker room, and it's essentially the veterans, and that's earth-shattering, really, because he's got to see those guys every day.
Well, not only that, but Parise gave every sign. When we were in there, he gave every sign of being a good leader and being accountable and all this. And it's possible that he is, but here's the thing. I don't think within a locker room the players can sometimes dig themselves out of their own issues because they're entrenched in it and they deal with it every day. Yeah. What you need is a coach that will take a step back and be like, guys, you guys are being ridiculous. Stop doing this. And that's the problem with Yo is, I think, remember, Jaromir Jagr is older than Mike Yo. Yeah. And honestly, Ryan Suter and Zach Parise, when they're done with their contract, they will be as old as Yo was when he started as the head coach. So sometimes you just need a guy who's a little bit older and can take a step back and be like, look, you guys aren't acting like yourselves, and there's something wrong. How do we get to the bottom of this? Because you shouldn't lose Jason Zucker. I think he's a good player, and I think he's a guy who probably will be a casualty of kind of the wild mess, and he'll go to the Vegas expansion team and be like, man, this is sweet. I'm back home, and I'm not dealing with this crap that happened in the Wild locker room. And I think it will come out. It's too juicy and too there's too many.
Well, it's too obvious.
Yeah, well, and there's too many wealthy athletes, and there's people that have to leave. This stuff gets out eventually.
Yeah, they need to play some corporate icebreakers together.
Yeah, fall into my hands and Suter's hell no, man.
They need to do trust falls. Just line up all the rookies in front of veterans and have them do trust falls.
Didn't you hear Chuck Fletcher on Thursday? Everything's fine. There's no problems at all. None at all.
Yeah.
And there's I have mixed feelings on Fletcher because I like it when, in the past, when they've had turmoil, he's like, the system will work and I'm not going to make a knee-jerk decision here. But he's gotten to, there's a balance there. There's a balance between being kind of a realist and idealist, and he's going way too far on the idealist side. He's saying it as he wants it to be, not as it is. And how do you then trust that guy? And again, this is his problem that he has to figure out, because my guess is if this doesn't get any better, there's no reason to hang on to him any longer than half a season or something like that. But, this is his problem. He has to get out of it. But he needs to be real with what's happening there. And I think sometimes it's best that they air that all out, because otherwise it just seems, again, like this tension will just carry over into next season. And, God, that would be awful.
Yeah, it just seemed like that press conference on Thursday was way more on the delusional side than it needed to be. I understand him not wanting to completely crap on a lot of players, especially if he wants to move some of them this summer. And also, you don't want to crap on the whole situation because you're hoping to entice a coach to come into that situation.
Well, and you created it.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I mean, really, you're kind of glossing over your own mistakes. But I understand that. But at the same time, I mean, there was some answers that he gave where it's just like, yeah, Chuck, this is an inconsistent team. Like, what? He denied this team being inconsistent.
He
it's
made
like,
it.
dude, what team were you watching? Like, I understand that you have faith in this team, and you should because you built it, but you can't deny things that are right in front of your face, like this team being the best Wild team in first half history, and then losing 13 out of 14 and getting Mike Yeo fired. Like, you can't just ignore the fact that happened.
And this is the third year in a row it's happened.
Yeah,
and actually every year of Mike Yeo's tenure, there was some kind of ridiculous peaks and valleys. And
well, and how about this? Like, he gets asked about the inconsistency, and he referenced specifically when the team basically bottomed out and Yeo got fired.
Yeah.
Without bringing up that might have been because the team was sick of Yeo and wanted him to get fired. Yeah. And secondly, he completely disregarded that they lost 5 or 6 games to end the season. Had Colorado been competent, they would have been in the playoffs. I mean, it's so ridiculous.
Colorado had
well,
way
we could
more
talk
to
about how they're not competent for an entire show.
You don't want to get Giles going down that road. He'll start pulling up.
That's a great road to go down. That's my most traveled road.
It's the Farrell Expressway right there is what that is.
Oh, hell yeah. I had this revelation last night, just thinking about it on my way home, and to me it was just a desperate attempt to, I don't know, give the team a vote of confidence in case he can't move anyone for next year. And I don't know, it also felt like there was somebody above him saying, you need to go out there and be positive so we can sell tickets.
Well,
they're so funny because you're a season ticket holder, right?
Yes.
So
there it is.
And my dad has a split through work or whatever, and so I see the stuff they put out there, and they were so adamant that there's this Wild warming house and that there's so many people looking to get tickets that if you were to leave your tickets, someone else is going. Yeah. And I understand that, Leopold, runs this at a loss, at least to my understanding, unless they make the playoffs or something like that.
That's what they
early
say. Yeah.
in the first 2 Parisian Suter years, I know they were running in the red because of their huge signing bonuses. But every year since, I think they've at least broke even or something like that.
But the worst thing for a team to be really is stagnant, because I mean, I guess you could be like the Twins and kind of give people hope last year and then start 17-18. But
no, the Twins can just make a lot of money off of somebody like me on alcohol sales.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like Tom Reed. I put this on Twitter. I was like, my theory here is Tom Reed makes more money off of Giles right now than he did playing hockey.
Yeah,
I'm actually pretty certain of this.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, they're stagnant.
Maybe there's a searchable history under the Giles tab.
It's pretty damn funny.
The Giles button.
I hope you get a button. You just hit a button and they
We're
serve you a beer.
not so sure that he doesn't. We're not quite positive that there actually isn't one.
There is there's positive evidence pointing to the fact that I have my own tab on the Tom Reed's computers.
He orders a beer and they push one button and give it to him.
No way. Really?
That's where that started.
Ben
I bet
confirmed
this is true.
when he was standing next to me.
It's
this
one
is
button
legit.
on the screen.
You're
and Giles
Norm.
gets a beer.
He's a modern day Norm, dude.
That was a running joke, and for him at Grumpy's, and then it's him at Reed's too. It's just he's got two homes away from home.
You have 2 bars.
Yeah,
go home.
that
Giles.
we know of at least.
2.
It's just like there's an episode of Cheers where they go to the bowling alley, and you know how Norm would always walk into Cheers. Everyone would go, Norm! And so they're at the bowling alley, and he goes, I got to get a beer. And he turns around, and he walks into the bar at the bowling alley, and you hear everyone go, Norm! And, and everyone kind of looks at him confused, and Cliff goes, what? The guy's got a life.
That's funny. No, but I forgot my original.
I'm actually going to take some time off from Breeds for a while.
Oh, that's fair.
Get away from the hockey.
After Game 6, I kind of said
Until their
goodbye
next,
to everyone, and they were kind of like, "Oh, you'll be back in no time." And I was like, "I'm not so sure about that." But then they're like, "Well,
they can't take you for
we'll
granted
see it to believe it." Yeah. So
we'll hold off until
I'll hold out for a long time.
Their next Jersey Expo in September or August.
I don't know if I can hold out that long. But.
So, in terms of, just out of curiosity, is Torchetti your choice if you can't get Boudreau?
I mean, I would say no. Even though he very well might be the best option. I just want so much of a culture change. I think that's what this team needs more than anything. Is Torch maybe, aside from Boudreau, is Torch maybe the best coach available on the market right now? Maybe except for Mike Yeo.
Yes.
I think he probably is.
Hire Yeo back.
Yeah. No kidding. I thought about that today. I was like, if they don't get Boudreau, like, is it insane to think like they bring? Yeah, no, it is. But yeah, I think that Yeo and Torch are the two best options out there besides Bruce Boudreau. But I don't think that we need to relive that again. I mean, Torch just proved. I don't know, unless there's something about Torch that I don't know, where he interviews for the job and says, here's the assistants that I'm bringing in. Because he's running Yeo's system because he was the Iowa Wild coach. Here's the system I want to run. Here's what I'm going to do. And it just seemed to me like at the end of the year, it was more of Mike Yeo than anything. It was the same. Obviously, it was the same system, but it was the same kind of player management. And it was the same issues.
He got sucked into their mentality. He was the one denying, "Oh no, we're not backing in. Didn't you notice we won games before?"
Yeah. Well, right. Yeah. So your playoff clinching game was 2 weeks before the playoffs started. Congratulations. Yeah. But yeah, as good as Torch is, and I think that maybe he does deserve a shot elsewhere. I don't want to see him back. I think that's. Even though I do, believe he is a good coach, I just think that that's a step in the wrong direction for this team. Not to say that I really want them to hire Randy Carlyle or Mark Crawford.
I've heard Carlyle's a jackass.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
Hopefully the Ducks call him up before we do.
Round 2. Let's go. Well, you won a cup there before. I mean, I don't know how they feel about him, but
and Mark Crawford really has been bad since. Like,
oh God, yeah. Nobody. I don't think anybody needs to go down that road. He's coaching in Switzerland, for Christ's sake.
What about this theory? What if you give Torchetti a 3-year deal, but it's really 1 year's worth of pay? That makes sense. Like you're paying him what you would pay most coaches a year, and then really what it is it's a prove it deal next year. And then if there's no change, then next year hopefully there's a better crop of coaches and you go get your guy.
I would have to look into what coaches have contracts coming up and kind of that sort of thing. But I think that's a huge gamble. You're gambling away a year of this team's window, which I don't think that it's slamming shut, but at the same time it's closing. I mean, we have to be realistic about that. I don't know that you gamble a full season away on hoping that there's a better coach next season, especially when you really have genuinely no idea that there's going to be a better. I mean, it's not like Babcock's contract expiring a year ago. It's not the same kind of situation. I think you're better off this year just kind of if you don't win the Boudreau sweepstakes, you just hope and pray that somehow Daryl Sutter doesn't want to coach in LA anymore. I don't know.
To me, if you don't get Boudreau, if you somehow lose him to Ottawa, then that's a sign that things are really, really bad.
Yeah.
Because Ottawa's a hot mess, and aside from Carlson and a couple of other guys,
Well, when you look nationally, everyone says that's where he's going.
I don't get it.
And I don't know why
they go through a new coach every 2 years. Like,
speaking of which, Paul McLean is available.
So unstable.
We could hire Captain Kangaroo or the Walrus or
whatever
you want to call him.
Maybe there's a reason Mike Yeo didn't get hired by Ottawa yet. He was interviewed, weeks ago.
Oh, he was? Okay.
And
I don't remember.
I don't know. It just, to me, I wouldn't want to go to Ottawa, even though it looks like they're kind of more set up to win in the long run. But
yeah, they do have a younger team with some stars. I mean, Carlson obviously is pretty attractive to coach, but I don't know. I got to think that they're kind of waiting on the Boudreau sweepstakes as well. I mean, that's why they haven't hired Yeo.
Yeo really needs to go to a situation where he can, even if he's an assistant or something, where he could maybe be the head coach where it's young guys. Because I think if he has just a team of young players, he'd have success.
Yeah.
The issue with that, and not that he'd probably think of this when he's getting hired, but he probably would be the first coach that kind of gets people or gets the team to the playoffs, kind of gets the young guys going, and someone else probably finishes the job. But I think that's his best bet. I think it's just really hard for a new coach who's young like he is to, relate in some ways or control kind of these older players because they just know they're getting paid and it doesn't matter. Ultimately they're going to win the battle between the coach and the player.
Yeah.
What I was going to say, sorry about the warming house. I think this is the point I was going to make. The issue too is they have to look at the sports landscape here, and the Vikings are on their way up. People may want to see that new stadium. They like what Zimmer has to offer and kind of where the team's going. There's not. I don't know how much there's crossover between basketball and hockey fans, but if you want to go see an entertaining product, I mean the Wolves have some very good young players right now. They're kind of where the Wild were a couple of years ago. Yeah. And, I don't think the Twins are much of a threat, just being that they're different seasons and all that. But, I mean,
they still have some exciting players, and there's a prospect of down the line they're going to get better.
At the very least, they seem organized, and the Wild don't. And that sounds ridiculous, but I think it's true.
And to your point about basketball, as much as I've been anti-basketball for the last, 10 years or whatever, since I got sick of the NBA, it's hard to argue against the fact that the Wolves are the up-and-coming team in this town. And I forget who it was. Somebody tweeted after the Wild lost in Game 6 that, step aside, Wild, the empire of the Wolves is coming. And the replies to that were just a dumpster fire of hockey fans being, the team hasn't made the playoff in 12 years. Well, that's a hot take. Well, no.
But it's the NBA, and you only need two good players. Right. And they have two very good players.
And Levine's a good player.
It's a much different situation now for the Wolves than it has been at any point ever.
Yeah. So and the other thing, too, like with the Wild making the playoffs, this works in both leagues, to be fair, but half the teams make it. More than half of the teams make it. So, let's not get too giddy about this. You got to give Yo credit that he got to the second round, but they did get stuck. Yeah. And not only that, but when you make it this year and you only have 87 points, that's almost like a point per game.
This was almost the most. I mean, this is, as far as hockey goes, this was one of the least impressive playoff berths that you'll ever see.
Honestly, if they had gotten far, then the league looks bad because you go, wait, why? How come a team can just not care in the regular season and make the playoffs?
Yeah, and I actually referenced your exact point. I wrote an article kind of analyzing a little bit the ticket price increases because they announced they're increasing ticket prices 4%.
Oh, that's smart.
And that's what I said. I was like, you know what? Just looking at the facts, because they've had more than a sellout all year long. It totally makes a lot of sense for them to ask for more money because it's a simple supply and demand. I mean, I took enough community college economics to understand that. But it just
sick college brag.
I'm not bragging about the college I went to, trust me. But it just with the Wolves, that's not to be discounted. Yeah, there isn't a ton of crossover between hockey, but as an entertainment product in general, you're always competing for that expendable income. And people talk about that when teams get locked out. When there was an NHL lockout, there was a Toronto movie theater owner who said it was the greatest thing that ever happened to him. It doesn't matter if you're hosting plays, if you throw concerts, if you have a basketball team, high-end restaurants, basketball team, hockey team, it does not matter. You're still going for the casual fan's expendable dollar. And if you're going to raise prices, if you're the Wild and your game is more expensive to go to with a team that we've well established is disappointing
at the crossroads at
right. Yeah. Would you rather go see the Wolves or the Wild if you're not a huge fan of either? There's obviously other factors there, but it's
for example, if you live in Woodbury, you're less likely to.
Yeah, but and certainly the Excel obviously has a huge leg up on the Target Center, but
although that's getting renovated,
sure, but the team. I mean, if you're worried about if you want to see an entertaining sports game, you're going to take a look at the team. And I think the Wild have a very real problem with raising ticket prices when the Wolves are very much on the rise.
My thing is I think they approached kind of the PR standpoint completely wrong. I would have Fletcher go out and be like, I'm going to be honest, we had some issues here. We're working these out. We have a good team. We have pieces to work with, but we have to get the chemistry straight or something like that. Have a straight message and then have people go, look, we're not raising prices because our team didn't get better. Right. And kind of they're sending the wrong message. Hey, this is more expensive and these guys live in their own reality. That's not a good message to send.
You were right. I think it's fair of him to say, we still have a good team, but he at least should have acknowledged the fact that, we've got some things to fix. That was the biggest frustration out of Thursday was just the clear unacknowledgement that anything was wrong.
Because that's how you solve problems, is you just ignore them. That's the best approach.
It's worked fantastic in my life so far. I don't know about you guys, but...
I feel like there's about 10 different things you could be referencing there.
Oh, there is. There definitely is. You have no idea.
I neglect a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean... I don't get me started.
Good public service announcement for all the kids out there. Don't tackle your problems head on, kids. Run away from them.
Yeah.
So I guess
hide in
maybe,
grumpies.
Yep, that's me.
Giles.
So I guess I don't know. Switching gears, kind of instead of looking back, we kind of look forward and trying to fix this team. I guess few topics of discussion. First of which is buyouts, which we've referenced a few times already on the podcast. But is there, I guess, a buyout that needs to happen on this team?
The only two that people are really going to go after is Vanek and Pominville, and understandably so, because both guys had disappointing seasons when it's all said and done. I'm actually in the middle right now of writing an article about weighing the options with Vanek's buyout, and with him, it's weird because he only has one season left. So I don't know. I understand the appeal there because it would free up a fair amount of cap space, and the penalty would just be, basically $2.5 million next season or the season after this upcoming season. Pominville, however, is a much different story. He's got 4 years left, and that's 3 years. Yeah, sorry, 3 years left, and so buying him out is ugly. And
there's a bonus in there which also still counts on the buyout. So
right.
There's a cap. There's like a $4.2 million cap
in the second season of the
year,
buyout,
which
so
would be ridiculous.
It makes it really tough to buy him out this summer. And to his credit, I think him and Haula and Niederreiter having almost undoubtedly the best line on the team for the last couple of months of the season probably saved him from getting bought out. And then when you do the calculator after next season, his buyout looks a lot better. It turns into a 4-year buyout instead of a 6-year buyout. The cap hits aren't nearly as severe, and it actually gets done a season sooner than if you were to buy him out this summer. Vanek is, that one's an easy, low-hanging fruit because he's making 6.5 this year. You buy him out, it's 1.5. You save $5 million on the cap, which they desperately need. But it's still kind of up in the air because what are you going to do with that money? You have to. I don't think you buy out Vanek for the sake of buying out Vanek. You buy out Vanek if you have somebody targeted.
Completely
if you have a couple
agree.
of guys targeted, and if you're not going to go after, a $4 or $5 million center, then why are you buying out Thomas Vanek? It just doesn't make a ton of sense to free up that space and then just to waffle it away on giving more contracts to guys like Chris Porter and Ryan Carter and players of that ilk. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If you're going to go after somebody big, by all means, I kind of like that move. But if you're going to buy out Vanek just because people think that he doesn't hustle, that just is stupid.
And we talked about it all on Twitter this week, and it's a lot easier to kind of construct the roster for next year if you buy out Vanek.
Yeah.
But it's also not impossible to construct a roster around him.
No.
For the next year, as I've done it on Cap Friendly. It's not impossible. You can still make some moves.
Right.
You got to make a few more moves to compensate for it, but it is possible. And I hate the fact of having all these buyouts down the road.
Oh, you don't want Yashin or whatever?
I don't.
Rick DiPietro.
Well,
yeah.
Wasn't he a compliance buyout?
Oh yeah, you're right. Yep, you're right.
It just we have $1 million tied up in the cap for next year to
Matt Cook
for his buyout. And that was coming after, we just got the Mark Parrish buyout off the hook. Yeah. And it's just like...
You got to have one at all times.
We don't need to have this. So it just... as much as I, got on Vanek this year, I'm more against the buyout.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of keeping cap space.
Also, we talked about it with the coach. Like, what star is going to be like, I want to go to the Wild and really just be in that terrible locker room with people who are,
And that's the other thing is people are like, you could buy out Vanek and then you can go get a free agent like, Caposo or Backus.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why?
I mean, because the age, right? They'd be more in the age range. Not Backus, but Akposo.
And maybe also an argument is maybe we should stop signing free agents to big contracts because that's another kind of knock on the GM.
That's the biggest knock, right?
Haven't worked out. Either
Are you saying we've spent a lot of money on veterans that have local ties?
Or Backstrom or
it just there's been so many bad contracts that runs up a bar tab.
And the thing with Vanek is that you save $5 million this year, but then next year you're on the hook for 2.5 with no player obviously to speak up for it, and it's just like that's the thing that I didn't get because it's only a season left, and I get the Matt Cook buyout because that was a lot less money, and they he was just essentially worthless to this team, but Vanek was still a top 4 scorer on this team. And that 2.5 that comes in the final year of Mikko's contract, so you're not getting any other big contracts off the books in that season either. If you want to buy out Pominville following that season, that makes sense because then Mikko comes off the books. You're hopefully signing him to a much lesser deal after that deal expires. But it really hampers this team in the 2017-18 season. And that's just, I mean, not to say they still can't do it. Like I said, if they do it and they go out and they sign somebody, if they go out and they sign a center that's, going to kind of shuffle this team in a direction that it needs to go up the middle, I think that's probably a good move. But unless you achieve exactly that, I don't like the buyout.
I agree, and I think the other thing about Pominville, aside from him becoming Yashin, is that he seems more inclined to be a leader. Like, I just don't see it in Vanek. I think Vanek goes out, does his thing.
I don't know.
Wait a minute, you're talking about former Buffalo Sabres captain Thomas Vanek.
I should address him as such.
How bad was the captaincy there when they split it between him and Steve Ott? Him and Thomas Vanek and Steve Ott were alternating captains on that Buffalo Sabres team. Holy Christ.
That's like we're tanking for real.
Those horrible uniforms.
Right, yeah, and they were still wearing the Buffa slug, and oh my God. I can't use that gif from Team America of him vomiting enough.
I hate when you use it.
It's my go-to. I love that gif. It's so amazing.
I'm one of those
especially when you bring up soup.
If I see someone puke, then I have this instinct that I have to puke.
I'm fine seeing it if the smell hits me.
Did you just take a shot at soup?
I absolutely took a shot at soup. That one flew under the radar. That was a swift uppercut you didn't even see coming.
Damn you. I'm going to troll you every day this week now.
I was flipping through the other night and I saw Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dimes. It's like, amazing soups. And I'm like, nope.
Yes.
We're going to watch any sports besides that. People making broth for 6 hours a day.
I think the best way to run this year if you're the Wild is it's a Chuck Fletcher prove it year, and you'd be like, you didn't get buyouts.
I agree to that.
You don't get buyouts. We'll give you a coach that you want. That's the other thing you have to keep in mind though is you don't want to sign that coach into too big of a deal just because the next GM might not want him.
Right.
Which is kind of a positive, I guess, for Torch. But if you can't get Boudreau, you bring back Torch. You keep Vanek, you'd be like, look, this is your mess, Chuck, and in a year it's so much easier to get rid of you that, Vanek's off the boards, you're off the books, you can get rid of Pominville if you want to, all that stuff.
Yep.
And the other knock on, you kind of said on the 2017-18 was, you say you buy out of Vanek and there's a $2.5 million cap hit, and Lord knows what the cap would be because of the Canadian dollar. But, there's notable RFAs again, like Granlund and Niederreiter, Haula.
Yep.
These guys could get a lot of money.
Yeah.
You just can't continue to waste precious cap space on people who aren't going to be on your roster.
Well, and another thing, too, with the buyout is that it assumes that everything else on this team stays completely the same, which I don't think that's happening. I think that, we've referenced it. We talked about it last week. There's a deal to be made out there. I mean, this team has defensemen just flying out of its arse, and it just we definitely
don't you make pants?
Yeah, there's a deal to be made there, and I think you hate to bring up the whole Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Jonas Brodin, Darcy Kemper, Jason Zucker, whatever combination you see fit. But there's a deal there. There's definitely a deal there. And not just with Edmonton even. You can get creative elsewhere. But if you just look at Edmonton, there's a zillion deals you can make with a top-flight forward, or at least a very talented forward that has underperformed because it's Edmonton, for a very good defenseman that the money ends up being even, or you even somehow get rid of a little bit of cap space. I mean, there's so many possibilities there that I think that you need to weigh that before you at the same time that you're weighing a buyout.
So I guess since kind of transition to what this team needs, are we all in agreement that this team's biggest need is a number one center?
Mm-hmm.
Do we disagree?
It's easier said than done.
You think Granlund's a wing?
I do.
I think he is, and I think Coyle is too.
Say you can get a number one center, and then you bump Koivu down. So you have this number one center, and then Koivu, and then Haula, and then you have Coyle and Granlund on the wings where they have played better.
Way much better.
That just makes this team that much better.
It does. It really it's kind of like getting a good closer in baseball, how it makes your bullpen so much better, because everyone slots down a spot into a spot where they fit so much better. Koivu, we've always said from day one, he's a number two center. He's a great number two center, and a lot of people argue with that point, but I think he's a good number two center. I think Haula has bounced back in a huge way this year. He's proved himself. Maybe he is the number two center, and you slot Koivu as number three. I mean, the top three lines in hockey.
You could make an argument that Haula and Niederreiter line should be number two.
Absolutely. And so it slides everybody down one spot into a spot where they belong. Right now, you've got a lot of people in spots where they don't necessarily belong. Number one center slides it aligns everything perfectly. I think it does so much wonders for this team. Problem is getting that number one center. They don't exactly grow on trees, and trading for one is going to take a lot of stuff. And this team being as draft pick strapped as it is, it makes it just that much more difficult to sweeten the pot.
And you kind of mentioned it. Nugent Hopkins could be available because Edmonton has McDavid as their number one, and Leon Draisaitl had a very good year, and he's slated to be the number two. And Nugent Hopkins has a $6 million cap hit, and he could get moved, and they could go with the much cheaper options for right now, and McDavid and Draisaitl.
Yep.
And, put whoever at 3 and 4.
No team desperately needs good defense like
the Wild could make, more of a player-for-player trade, and they could give, 2 or 3 good players back to Edmonton, kind of fill other holes in their roster, or I'm just kind of spitballing.
So here's my one plea is that I'd rather trade Brodin than Dumba, because I think as much as I see his faults, he is 21 years old, and I think he has the most upside and a need for the team scoring from the defense.
Yeah. That was another kind of big topic of discussion on Twitter this week was, what do you do with Dumba? And I kind of argued, is he untouchable? No. But I don't think, you want to move him for nothing. You want to, if you move him, it's got to be for like a number one center or something.
Yeah, I mean,
it's got to be really worth it to give up on him at this point. Because, I'm kind of with you. I think he projects to be very good down the road. He's still kind of working some things out as he's only 21 years old. And it was kind of disappointing to see so many people had already given up on him because he had a disappointing postseason and end of the season. And that's just kind of the wrong way to go about it.
Yeah. And I think that he, his potential is that, but it's... Yeah, he's still only 21, and I think you don't. If you're trading him now, if you're looking to trade him now, I think you're selling low.
Right.
And that's the last thing you want to do, especially with a guy like that. I mean, we kind of saw that, maybe not so much with Brett Burns, because I don't think they sold low on him, but they didn't sell high on him.
Well, they kind of screwed the pooch on.
Yeah, and I think he probably took off.
I think more so, at the time this was a good deal. And then,
Setaguchi
he was coming off a great year, and Coyle was
kind of blew it.
I like Coyle as a player, and I suppose if you're going to redeem that, Coyle just has to become a high-end player. I think they thought Setaguchi was a 30-goal scorer.
Yeah.
That was fair at the time. He was playing really good with the Sharks.
Yeah, but that was also with a completely different team and players, and but that's how hockey works. Is that you're only as good as the line that you're on sometimes.
Chichu, if you want to use a Shark.
Exactly, Jonathan Chichu. And then my little brother was watching him with the Milwaukee Admirals in Milwaukee about 2 years later. So,
and where is it? I mean, what's his name is only 29, Setaguchi, and he's in like Europe or something, right?
Yeah, and he had a lot of, I think it came out after the fact that he had a pretty serious issue, I think it was, with drinking, and it just seemed like things kind of went off the rails for him because he went to Edmonton the season after that, and it just didn't get any better for him. So
why did you look at me after you said drinking?
Giles only gets better when he drinks.
I can confirm that, yes.
I have heard some drunk podcasts, by the way. Like, I'll be in my car, and I'm like, damn it, Giles.
Yeah, Yeah, we're trying to clean up on that.
We are?
I'm trying to clean up on that.
But the other thing with Brodin is you have that it's Olofsson, right? The guy from Colorado College.
Yeah.
And isn't that like, aren't they kind of not one and the same, but
right.
you could move him in?
Essentially, Olofsson has been described, as Brodin light or something like that. And to me, I was kind of looking at it when I was, playing the GM feature on Cap Friendly, and I was kind of thinking, I was like, if you're trying to move a defenseman, and I'm looking at Brodin or Scandella, I think there's more value in trading Scandella than there is Brodin right now. Yeah. So Brodin had not a good year, and he doesn't do much for points, and if he couldn't get moved earlier in the year for Ryan Johansson, then maybe the rest of the league thinks, he's not somebody we want to be building around.
Allegedly, other teams were knocking down the Wild's door for him at the deadline, and that's great.
Who said that?
Well, was
that Chuck speak?
That could have been, and I don't know. It just it seemed like he was a very chic name to be on everyone's mind with the trade deadline. But I mean, you kind of hope that maybe it's a team without an analytics department that takes a look at him because
let's rip off the dev teams.
He plays good defense. He'll still make a mistake every now and then. He's not completely mistake free, and that's kind of what ends up being his downfall because he contributes literally next to nothing on the offensive side of the ice, and that makes his analytical numbers look pretty awful. I mean, his Corsi 4 is downright horrendous, and that's something that a lot of teams are going to look at.
Is that a flaw in the stats, though? Because stats tend to always do offense better than defense.
Not necessarily. I think it's a very fair criticism of him that he doesn't contribute anything to the offensive side. I mean, I think that I understand that you still have to I don't think it paints the whole picture. Advanced stats never do, and I'll be the first person to say that. Is he great defensively? Yes. I mean, you're not going to find a guy who is a much smoother skater and good with breakouts than him. He is. He's that good at that. But if you're going to have somebody who literally cannot contribute anything offensively, you need to have Nicholas Lidstrom in your defensive end, and I don't think he's that good.
But isn't that what Edmonton needs? Don't they need like a solid, rock solid defense?
Stay-at-home guy? Yeah.
They do.
And so that's why maybe that deal makes a lot of sense for
them.
them.
they probably aren't good at analytics. I just get that impression.
I don't know. I don't even know.
Yeah, I have no idea. But
what teams are onto it? I know who the Wild have employed. Right. That's about it.
That's kind of it feels like the Wild are probably one of the more teams who are out of head on the analytics, considering who they have on their payroll.
And I thought that the Maple Leafs were up there, but then they hire Lou Lamoriello, and you don't really get that vibe from him. So their
assistant GM is heavy into analytics.
Oh, okay. That's because I had heard that about them, but then they hired Lou, and it's like, I don't know if he buys into that a whole lot because it's Lou.
Just like is he the president or the general manager? I forget how they're.
Both?
I forget how they're.
Isn't Shanahan the president?
You might be right. It's the Maple Leafs. They can just hire anyone, make up a title, and pay them whatever because they're just a.
And then they win the lottery. Rigged.
Yeah, Edmonton gets it, or Toronto.
Edmonton was one number away from winning the lottery.
Yeah, they were one ping pong ball away. It was 14 instead of 13.
Yep, 13 came out and they had 14, and that would have been it.
Oh my god.
Oh god, what a horror!
Hockey Twitter would have burned.
I was honestly rooting for it just for the 100% comedic value, but at the same time, like it would have been like one of those situations where you laugh and you laugh and you laugh, and when you're finally done laughing, you're like, "Good God, that is screwed up!" Like. What is wrong with this system? Honest to God, like we cannot.
Hey, good players, you want to go to a bad team?
I know
the bad team.
Right.
The best tweet I saw was somebody said, "I don't know what the number 4 is," and in quotes, and then it was quoting Edmonton.
You're picking 4th. What is that? I don't understand. Does not compute.
Know what that is. Yeah,
we were all Blue Jackets yesterday, and we were let down.
I don't know if you want to say that. I don't know if anyone's ever said that. We're all Blue Jackets. I was definitely hoping the Jets didn't win.
Oh my God, that's just what they need too. They got the number 2 picks. They're going to get that Finnish kid. That's great.
What happened with the Jets? Because even when they were in Atlanta, wasn't the thought like they have all these young guys and they're supposed to come up together?
in the last days of the Thrashers, it felt like they had a good young core that was going to do things, and that really hasn't happened, and they kind of took a big step back. And
well, I mean, goaltending has been kind of one of their main issues, but now they've got Hellebuck, who had a good season, and you figure is only going to get better. So I don't know if that team goes as he goes. I don't know if they have that good of a team in front of him.
He might get buried again.
Well, right,
because they have Pavlik that they just seemingly let's start him. He's good.
He's the Nicholas Backstrom of the Jets.
Trade him to Dallas.
He would fit right in.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a retread with suboptimal numbers? You need to go to Dallas.
I love Giles on Twitter. He's like, just shoot at Lettinen. He's not that good.
No.
It's a simple strategy.
And the Blues pulled it off today.
Yeah, let's just chip the puck in.
Yeah. I'm still on the board of drunk Giles joining the coaching staff. I think that's you just need someone yelling obvious things at this team.
Yeah. It feels like that at times, and that was a lot of the frustration with this team this season was just like that. It seemed like any idiot in the Star Tribune comment section could have done a better job managing this team than.
Yeah, that's a bold statement.
It is a bold statement, but it feels like it was that things were that bad that somebody with that little qualification could have guided this ship slightly better than how it was being guided all season long by whoever, by Fletcher, Torchetti, whatever.
They need people in there that just are honest with themselves. That's really what they need, because they just they exist in this alternate universe where just a lot of bad bounces the second half, or something
really.
like
that. Basically, what it boiled down to. I mean, they lost that series on 2 goals that came off of skates. And that's how. Not to give them credit like they played a great series or they deserved to win. They didn't. On either accord, but I mean that's just kind of they put themselves in the position to lose off of 2 pucks that came off of skates, and that's really ultimately I wrote about it on Monday after the series was over. It's kind of it was a microcosm of their season. They put themselves into position where a bad bounce did them in.
I mean, you want to bring up the I saw that angle where they showed the puck in, and I said, look. This is in any sport at any time. Do not put the decision of the game in the ref's hands.
Yeah.
And don't claim that, we can just take 40 minutes off and then we got, ripped.
Yeah.
Like if you had played those first 40 minutes, you maybe could have won the game. Yeah. I don't know.
No, and that's just it too. It's that the goals that they allowed, leading up to that third period were just, they were somewhat stoppable pucks. I'm not going to let Dubnyk completely off the hook, but at the same time, they were just brutal defensive lapses too. It was just kind of a complete meltdown. It was a complete team meltdown on almost all of those goals.
But they won't admit that, just some bad bounces.
Geez. we need to get an intern to go back to our podcast before the season, and I'm pretty sure you can hear me as quoted as saying something along the lines of, we should play Dubnyk less this year so that when it gets time to the playoffs, he doesn't give up bad-looking goals.
Well, or maybe, how weird was that with Zach Parise where he initially got hurt and he was like, you know what, it's going to take some time here and this and that. And then he's immediately back out on the ice. And I get it. He's a competitor. And like I said, as much as maybe there's, things that have come out that, when things really get tough, he gets kind of selfish and goes and gets his. But regardless of all that, he's a guy who you think you could reason with, and you need someone there who's an authority figure who goes, look, dude, if you keep on playing, you will get hurt and this will ruin your career and we need to keep you out. And it's like the Vanek thing. It should not be a big deal to sit Vanek. If he's bad, he shouldn't play. I mean, I don't get why that became such a big deal. It seems like there's no control there, which is really frustrating.
Well, I want to know whose call it was to allow Parise to play as long as he did, because somebody ultimately somewhere down the line had to make that decision.
The doctors always say don't do this,
right?
And then someone allows them to do it. It's not the doctors.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And so it's what trainer was signing off on that, or what trainer was being leaned on by what coach / GM / whoever to okay that kind of behavior. That's just
how many years in a row now has this been where he has an injury and probably came back far too soon?
No, it seems to be a common
if you're
thing.
Leopold, I'd be irate. I'd just be like, I gave this dude a huge contract. He's got to get through this.
It's literally, you run the risk of, not, paralyzation might be a little severe, but you run the risk of a very serious, almost career-ending injury to a huge investment.
And backs and knees.
That's what he is.
Outside of a head injury, backs and knees are what kill athletes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Lingering, back issues linger so much too, and it's just like you probably can't rest a back injury enough. And instead of doing that, they just go the complete opposite direction, and he plays and plays and plays until some dude cross-checks him in the back, and he can't,
And to be fair,
up.
Couture, I don't know what he was doing.
Oh, it was a cheap shot,
yeah.
sure, but you're putting, I mean, it's hockey, and it's Parisi. I mean, if you counted every cross-check that he got to the giblets all season long, there'd be a pretty long count. I mean, you'd have the serious jailhouse calendar going on there, because it happens, a half dozen times a game every game. That's just the style of hockey that he plays. So that just makes putting him in that position even dumber. If you're going to let Thomas Vanek skate out there with a back problem, it's probably not going to be that big of a deal because he doesn't take a lot of hits. He's not that type of player that's battling in front of the net. That's the type of player that Parisi is almost exclusively.
Parisi's biggest downside is he plays like a guy who's on the fringe of the NHL. And like, you know what I mean? There's just guys who he like, and you love that about him, but you have to. This is when I go back to, this is the thing that you have to calculate before you get into the math and the science behind hockey. You have to go, is this guy capable of controlling a locker room and saying, you're sitting or you're not playing when you're hurt or this and that? And I just don't see it. It just seems like mass chaos there. And do you guys ever watch like The Naked Gun with Leslie Nielsen?
No, I vaguely recall.
So like some guy cruises into a fireworks shop, right? And like jumps out of his car and it blows up, and Leslie Nielsen's a cop and he goes up there and he goes, there's nothing to see here, nothing to see here. And in the background you see fireworks going. That's what the Wild are. They sit there and say there's nothing to see here. There's no issues here. And I think they truly believe that, and they don't bother to solve these things. And why, if you're a season ticket holder, or if you watch these guys on a regular basis or engage with the team, do you go, yeah, I have a lot of faith in these guys running this organization?
Yeah, I know it's a tough spot to be in, and that's unfortunately the conversation that I've had with every one of my friends since this season ended. Was I'm the go-to for obvious reasons as to what could possibly be wrong with this team. I'm sure you guys experience it a lot too, but it's just like
I instituted a no talking about the Wild policy with my friends. And they oblige.
I'm happy to oblige because I like the conversation, and it just it's just like I'm to the point now where I tell people flat. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I mean,
so I heard Michael Russo went on with I don't know if you guys listen to American Wyszynski, like the one works for Yahoo, the other on Sportsnet.
Yeah, was it like I don't know?
It was
3
recently
weeks ago.
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks ago.
I listened to that.
Yeah, and he just was
like
irate.
Well,
no, he was just like it was a great conversation because I think Merrick went off, right, and it was just Wyszynski and him. I think that was the deal.
I think Wyszynski was on because I think right before Merrick jumped off the show.
Yeah, no, that's right. And I remember he's like, "Are you frustrated with this?" And he goes, "I'm not. I just don't get it." And for someone who you have to remember with a beat writer, that is your job. Like it's not like a guy like Kent Youngblood or some of those guys cover multiple sports. When you're Michael Russo, you are around that team as much as possible. You're working sources. He must have fleshed this thing out with Parisi. He must have found the hospital he's at and figured it out. I mean, which is ridiculous, but he's good at his job. Yeah, and so he. If a guy like that doesn't get it, you go, man, this team is just messed up.
And how many times this year have we just sat here and said, I don't get it?
That's how we came up with Russo's bar tab we were like, just us doing what we do, which is so, relatively insignificant to what Russo does. It was frustrating for us. And then our point that night was, I can't even imagine what it's like for somebody who that's their livelihood. He's got to find a story behind this team on a nightly basis. And, not only are you riding a roller coaster, but you can't even really put your finger on where it's going.
He said this, so this was immediately after they clinched the playoffs. And so, and it's because I've done this before, I can kind of speak to it. You go from up in the press box where you've seen all the action on the ice. You probably, especially him, he's always following Twitter and kind of gets the feel for what the fans are thinking. And especially he follows national people, I'm sure. And they're probably tweeting about this team and kind of this dumpster fire into the playoffs. And you go down there and all you're looking for is, okay, I need to see where everyone's head's at and kind of get an explanation for what happened on the ice from people who are experts, people who played the game and people who are coaching all this. And so you go in there and you're not going to be like, hey, congrats, you guys made the playoffs. Isn't this awesome? I mean, even when teams do well and there's winning, your job is, sometimes it is exciting because the players are more upbeat and you kind of see antics in the locker room because they just don't care. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, the media's here, but we're going to dick around. That happens a lot. And And for them to turn it on these beat reporters and be like, well, you guys are being so negative, we made the playoffs. I go, why? Of course he's going to get upset about that. That's ridiculous.
It was.
It's I don't understand. That was the big problem for me. It's like, how do you not understand? Like, that's what a beat writer does. It's like, he's not there to report,
well, here's
fluff. He's there to report what's going on. And if things aren't going well, that's what's going to get written.
Yep.
Like,
and here's the other issue with hockey in general and the Wild specifically. You have a lot of columnists who will avoid hockey because that's not like their sport. Like they grew up probably with baseball and football or maybe basketball or something like that, and they focus on that and they only write about the Wild kind of in unique situations. And so the issue with the Wild is they keep everyone out unless you have to be in there, right? Almost everyone there works for the team. So, of course, the players are like, yeah, we're used to people coming in the locker room and, giving us not a pat on the back, but being positive about winning or making the playoffs. And they forget, look, you have beat writers who are in there because they're, they have their pass or whatever, and they can't, the team can't boot them out and they need the coverage. And very rarely do you have kind of a columnist in there who rocks the boat, right? Who's kind of shaking things up. It's probably Powers and Murphy if you want to point to two. And so, of course, they're used to being like, yeah, everyone's supposed to kind of suck up to us. Where you're not going to have that in football because it's so media saturated, and it's not going to happen in basketball now because that's media saturated. And in baseball, the Twins are just very open about when things are going bad. Yeah. And so I'm not shocked it happened. It's just that's not a healthy environment for anyone to be in, honestly.
No, I can't even imagine. And
maybe that's a bigger problem than anything on the ice is the environment.
Yeah, oh, no, the two reflect, and that's why I go back to people want to dump on these young players and be like, they chose the wrong guys, and, they're inconsistent in their play, and this and that. And I go, look, it's nature and nurture. Like, I think naturally they're good players. I think the, kind of the environment they're in is conducive to just chaos and not making sense. And that's not good for a young player at all. No one really, but especially young players.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. That's probably a pretty underrated reason why we haven't seen the development out of players that we would have liked.
Which, God forbid, you develop players in the NHL.
Well,
who knew?
I guess we can move on to happier thoughts. I guess.
Is it?
Well, just a few topics to close out the show here.
Sure.
I guess just kind of looking at the NHL playoffs, we didn't really hit on this last week because I wasn't equipped to host the show, just to be honest. The second round kicked off this week, and a lot of good hockey, specifically in the Pittsburgh-Washington series, which I just continually gush over on Twitter. But any big thoughts here?
Nothing so far. It kind of has gone more or less how we expected to. That series is tied up 1-1. That's awesome. I think if we can get a 7-game series out of that, that's like the sweetest thing ever.
That'll be great, but I'll just be on such an edge in Game 7 because I want Washington to move on so badly.
Really? See, I think we should talk about this just because we're talking a Minnesota fan base or whatever.
Sure.
My picks would be the Lightning just because I think they're kind of an exciting team and they have this weird Stamkos kind of narrative going.
Yeah.
As much as I think people here probably would pull for the Islanders naturally just because there's
so many
Minnesota players.
Yeah.
And so either way, I'm kind of fine on that one. But I'd like to see Pittsburgh just because I think it's a fun sports town and I love it goes back to the uniforms. Like I just love what you're wearing here, your old Lemieux one and stuff like that. And then I want to see the Sharks because I covered them for 2 years when I was in college, and the Blues. And I'm like, I might get my picks here. You know what I mean? I think the Capitals series will come down to that, but the Lightning look like a better team.
I think I had all of those picks except for
the Caps.
I had Washington in 7, and I think you're right on Tampa Bay. They're playing really well right now without Stamkos, and he could come back maybe at the end of this series or even into the next one, but. Them and the Islanders are kind of evenly matched right now, and when push comes to shove, I just kind of look at the goaltending, and I favor Ben Bishop way more than Thomas Greiss, and that's kind of why I picked Tampa Bay, and they could be a sleeper coming out of the East no matter who they're playing in the next round.
Well, they were in the Stanley Cup final last year.
That'd be a credit to them.
And Stamkos was skating last week, so That's going to be obviously the biggest news line in that series is going to be if and when Stamkos returns. I don't know that he returns in this series, but if they do somehow manage to survive, then you've got Stamkos versus either the Capitals or the Penguins in the next round, and that's pretty intriguing.
I found out how they fixed his blood clot, I guess, in his shoulder.
Yeah.
Where it was. They had to go in and like break a rib and go up through there. Somehow it was really weird. It's just like that's why he's not playing yet, is because he's not able to shoot adequately because he had a broken rib.
Sure.
That's nuts.
They had to intentionally break a rib. It's just
how do you get that job?
That's Giles' next job. Like,
No.
Giles go snap a rib, man.
Rib breaker.
I don't.
He's like, I got the wrong one. Whoops.
Yeah, just get really angry before I have to do this. I'll watch highlights of the 2015-16 Wild.
But then I just checked, and the Blues were up 3-1.
They won in overtime.
They won in overtime. I know. I saw that. They won 4-3 in overtime over Dallas. So that series is 1-1. That'll actually probably be a pretty good series.
On a Roussel penalty.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, and they have a great, if you look on Twitter,
poetic.
there was a great reaction from him where he's coming out of the box and he just like drops his stick.
Awesome. Oh, that's so awesome.
I don't really have a preference for who comes out of the West. Maybe.
I mean, San Jose, St. Louis, right? Like one of those teams that's always in the dumps.
I kind of think if San Jose can get by the Predators, maybe they can get into the final. Maybe this will be their year, because
Martin Jones is playing
it's such
really well
kind
right
of
now.
a coin flip for whoever comes out of Dallas and St. Louis, and they're just a coin flip as to how they'll play in the next round.
Yeah,
but
true.
that's if San Jose got into the next round, which is not a given, considering Nashville looked dead to rights against Anaheim and they won the series.
Yeah, and San Jose's only up 1-0 right now, and then they play tonight, so we'll see how that goes.
It'll be a fun. I compared between the two because I'm one of those rare basketball hockey fans. The NHL playoffs in the first round were so much better.
Yeah.
The NBA will get better as time goes on.
Yep.
But
That's exactly it. The NBA in the first round is just horrible.
It's
Don't
pretty
watch.
bad,
I'll watch as it goes on because I know it gets better. And the NHL,
the conference finals and the finals seem to be pretty good. Yeah, and that is the weird thing. Like with the NHL, it always seems like it peaks in the conference finals. The Stanley Cup final never seems to be that good of a matchup, unfortunately.
When was the last good Stanley Cup final?
What was the one before this year? Was it New York, LA?
Yeah. That one ended.
Yeah.
Well,
six
last year
games.
was Chicago, Tampa Bay.
No,
The
yeah,
year
no.
before that was L.A. and New York, and that was only 5 games. But
Yeah.
they were
5.
all the games were close.
Yeah.
But it was a 5-game series.
Right.
I mean, arguably this year could be fun. You could have kind of like the Capitals or Penguins probably come out of there, right? Unless Stamkos comes back and just.
I would think so. Yeah.
And you're facing off if it ends up well, you're facing off against the Sharks or the Blues. That would be the big storyline, is one of those teams trying to break through.
Especially if it's I think if it's the Penguins, it might be less so because they've already won one. But if it's the Capitals, it's a monster story because Ovechkin still hasn't won one, and then if he goes against either the Blues or the Sharks, neither one of them has won. So I think if you get a first-time Cup winner out of it, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, and think about it. That Hitchcock was almost about to get fired, and like there's a lot of things going on.
Still, I mean, I thought that the first round victory saved his job, but there's some people that disagree with that. And thinking on it, it's like, well, you're probably not wrong. I mean, if they lose in this round, it's entirely possible that he gets fired still, because he was very much on thin ice after last season, and winning a playoff series is great, especially against Chicago, but I don't know that 100% saves his job. But then you're down to the same argument with the Wild. Who do you get to replace him?
Yeah, it's not.
Mike Yeo.
It's not pretty.
Great idea.
Yeah,
like I said, Yo needs just a young team that he can kind of do his thing with.
He probably is a good fit in Ottawa for that reason.
He'd be a good fit in Toronto, but they got Babcock.
Yeah.
Oh, in that media market, though, he'd get eaten alive.
Yeah. True.
No, I'm back to the playoffs here. I'm still firmly in the Team Washington camp, as I've been for the last.
Can you talk to your boys over there and tell them they're wearing the wrong jerseys?
I tweet at them every game.
He tweets them all the time.
Every game. I tweet at Wash Caps, you are wearing the wrong jerseys.
Yeah.
One time they'll find them.
It took me a month to find that jersey,
Yeah.
but I found it and bought it immediately.
Yep.
And It's wonderful.
Because this could be a great jersey matchup if the Penguins and the Caps were wearing their jerseys.
Well, the problem is that it switches off. The Caps have their red homes.
If they were still wearing the road alternates they
Whites,
had last year.
Yeah. If the Caps were wearing the white alternates that are the throwbacks against the jersey that I'm wearing, that the Penguins are wearing right now, that'd be phenomenal.
Yep.
But it kind of flip-flops because right now the Caps don't have a road alternate, and the Penguins don't have a road alternate, so they both end up wearing. They could possibly wear their thirds at home, and both teams, the home teams look sweet, but then the road teams, just look like their current iterations, which isn't nearly as fun.
If we were jersey consultants for the NHL next year,
this wouldn't
for
happen.
the centennial season, we would just make every team wear their best jersey in their history.
What is it? What are the Wild wearing then?
If they're wearing their best jersey,
yeah.
Oof. Well, they're wearing their.
I'd
probably what they're got now. And I think their green now is probably the best jersey that they've had. And
I like their whites.
Yeah,
and
I like their whites too. And I think
their reds are bad.
Yeah, and I think the whites right now are probably the best white that they've had. I mean, they only had two, so I like it better than the original one.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah, it's they could probably do some other things to maybe tweak these jerseys, but I think they're wearing the best set that they can right now.
Maybe we're trying to market to the wrong organization. Maybe we should just market ourselves to the Wild here as jersey consultants. 'Cause they need some.
We need to aim
upgrades.
lower.
Yeah,
jersey consultant.
Bring us
coach.
aboard.
Yeah.
I'll never say anything negative ever again.
I know you got this big Adidas switch coming up. We've got some ideas, and they don't involve three stripes.
Yeah, Let's do that. I can.
We'll just start tweeting at the Wild.
I can work for cheap. Yeah, we'll get blocked.
Yeah, and
I can
probably.
I can work for cheap.
Yeah.
Work from home.
Yeah, exactly.
I could see a setup.
It's not even that bad of a commute either.
No, but it's just in January. I'd prefer to not leave my own home.
Well, that's fine.
I
save on giving you an office.
I don't want to have to scrape my windshield.
I want an office.
No, they'll just give you a spot in Tom Reed's, and they'll be like, you get minimum wage but an open tab, and it's like done.
Where do I sign?
Poutine and Molson's, just breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Giles, you have to design the jersey first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, he's just consulting. We'll just walk designs past him as he sits at Reed's, and he'll just thumbs up, thumbs down, like kind of thing.
I'm Giles from Ice the Ticks. Like, sir, get out, please.
You don't even know how happy I am that I have not made a mispronunciation like that on this podcast yet, because poor Giles. Like, I haven't even brought it up because
I'm sorry, Giles.
But that's okay because other guests have done such a great job of bringing that up. I don't even have to give him crap for that because other guests will do it for me.
I think that's the last time that was brought up was last time we had Tom on.
Yeah,
probably was. Yeah. Well, I think Dan's brought it up as well, but he hasn't been on recently. So
I see Dan every week. So
Dan, we don't need help with him trolling you.
Dan trolls me on social media in this podcast, but when we're in person, we're actually nice and we have good conversations with each other.
Going.
Yeah. So don't think that I eternally hate Dan.
But it is a great bit on social media. So
well, yeah, that's why social media is there.
Yes, great bits such as that. So should we segue into jersey segment since we're talking about jerseys?
Yeah, we might as well.
Sure.
This week is the Chicago Blackhawks. It's a pretty straight history of.
Yeah, I looked at it, and I mean they had like 18, 19 different jerseys before like 1965, but I don't know that you really want to count any of those. And then since 1965, the jersey has barely changed at all. So,
right. And
which is probably a good thing.
I think it's a good look. It's it's a more traditional look, and I guess I would like to see them maybe go back to the black alternates, but. Then again, they play in a outdoor game every year, so they have a new jersey every year, so they don't really need to come up with an alternate anytime soon.
Why did they change from Blackhawks to Blackhawks? Because I feel like they created an issue there. Like that's the one critique is they're like, yeah, Native Americans just hate this. Because it was the Black Hawk Regiment, I believe that's why the original owner.
Yep.
And I feel like it's a weird critique, but it's like you can't really critique these jerseys. I see it. There's kind of a weird one with too many stripes, but other than that, you're right. The black one looks good. I kind of like the old school one. The red obviously is one of the best ones in hockey. I suppose the white one isn't that unique, but it's not bad.
No. Yeah, I don't know. I think the thing with them is Yeah, they haven't changed much, but that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know, where do you guys have them in like the pantheon of hockey jerseys? Are they? I mean, it's really easy to label all the original 6 teams as having great jerseys, but
if you're just grading their set,
yeah.
I'd probably say they're up there in the, I don't know, at least the top 10.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't made like an official list, and
which is kind of surprising when you think about it.
This isn't a great question right now, but outside of the original 6, like what would be your top 3?
Outside of the original 6,
I mean, what do you think of San Jose's? Like, I thought San Jose did a pretty good job.
I don't know. I liked their original ones better because they're a little more simple. I really like what LA has going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we talked about it a couple weeks ago. We're huge fans of the Gretzky era, but the current LA jerseys, I like. I like that look.
Even their old purple ones weren't terrible.
Yeah. No, we like those as well. The purple and gold. Just not the early 2000s stuff. But
outside of the original 6 here, I'm just kind of looking at the teams list.
Yeah,
I would say after their recent change, I like St. Louis.
Yeah, I love St. Louis. That's a good one.
And their alternate is one of the better alternates.
St. Louis is really. You were talking about that one. I knew someone who owned the trumpet one, which is ridiculous. With some red in there. Yeah. Yeah.
No, not that third. Not the third jersey, because that never got actually made.
The Gretzky jersey.
Yeah. Well, Giles has one as well. Yeah, those are nice. The angles. It was kind of peak 90s ish, but I do have a fondness for those with the trumpet shoulder patches.
Yeah, so it's the Gretzky with the red. That's the deal.
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess so. Outside of the original 6, I'd go. What did I say? Blues. I like the Lightning sets.
Yes.
It's a pretty clean.
Not the
look.
Bolts thing, right? Just the Lightning straight up.
Yeah, the
actually,
white and the
I kind of. Have you guys seen what's that black and white movie where they play hockey on the rooftop? Clerks. I actually like that Tampa Bay Lightning jersey,
the original
too.
ones.
Yeah.
They've got kind of like a kitschy 90s value to them. It's hard for me to not like any of the jerseys that were prevalent in the mid 90s, just because that's when I really got hooked on hockey. So even though we've talked about this, that's kind of it could be a bingo square for Christ's sake, but we talk about it's like, well, yeah, these 90s jerseys, they were kind of weird but we kind of like them. It's just kind of a running thing with Giles and I. It's like there's such a 90s. Fondness for those 90s jerseys, even though we readily admit that was a really goofy time for hockey jerseys.
And then as much as we love to rag on them, I'd probably say Edmonton, just because throwback to the 80s look.
Yep. And even Calgary's are all right.
Yeah.
They haven't messed with those too much.
Yeah, those.
I loved the first edition of the red jersey that they had in like 2004
with the yellow
Black Sea?
Or whatever.
No, yeah, that's it. And then the Reebok edge kind of kicked in, and it kind of took a little bit away from it, in my opinion. And I don't know.
Like I was a fan of them. They're old ones. They're like 80s ones. That's kind of got a cool, weird old school look to it. But I do like the late era Theo Fleury kind of Flames jerseys and early era, I guess, Jerome Iginla.
Is Dallas the worst? Like, Dallas has to change.
We talked about it, and the jerseys themselves aren't horrible because they went pretty simple, and we do like that they went back to Kelly Green, even though they stole our hockey team. But the logo is just brutal. Like it looks like a high school, lacrosse team, and I don't know. They're probably not going to change anytime soon because they just went through that huge rebrand a couple of years ago. But I don't know. It just.
What defunct team has the best jerseys?
Ooh.
I mean, I'm trying to think. Like, I'm trying to think of a team that I really like. Atlanta, I think of like the Flames because that's what the best Flames jerseys were. Right. Atlanta Flames jerseys.
I don't know. There's a lot of them that are really good.
Winnipeg.
Yeah, those I really like.
That's
and it's hard. It's hard to dislike the Whalers.
The Whalers were good,
and the Nordiques too. Like the Nordiques was kind of a goofy jersey with the fleur de lis everywhere, but it kind of worked, because it was Quebec. So, those are probably three, the defunct teams that were kind of North Stars. Definitely North Stars.
Yeah.
It's easy
they
to
had really good
those.
sets until the
last ones.
Until they moved
black.
out. Those were awful.
Was Atlanta the worst? Like
Thrashers?
Atlanta, yeah, like they had that
Probably.
weird Atlanta down the side.
Yeah, I don't know what they were going for with that. Like they were like, hey, you know how arena football teams look? We want to look like that on a hockey team.
What about, for good ones, what about old Phoenix Coyotes?
We do we talked about those, the real Aztec type stuff. Do like that. I prefer that much more to the weeping puppy that they feature now. So I'll continue to call it that until they change it.
That's funny. I hope they do.
I guess, speaking of, we're on the Blackhawks here, and we were talking about 90s jerseys. They really didn't have one.
No, I mean, they had a black alternate.
Right.
Why would you mess with that? It's like the Blues. Why would you mess with those jerseys?
Yeah, you just didn't need to.
You know, the black jersey was just like the others. It was just plain, but it was just black.
They took Microsoft Paint and they filled in the red with black, and that was all they did. And that was fine, because that's all they needed to do.
Have you seen the green ones?
Yeah.
That's like a Wrigleyville thing.
Yeah, and it's just like, I guess if you've got an absolutely massive Irish population in your town, maybe you do that, but I don't know. Just that gimmicky kind of stuff I've never really been a big fan of. Like, it's cool if they wear camouflage warm-up jerseys and sign them and give them away or donate them to, like, a veteran charity or whatever, but outside of that, it's just like, I just would prefer that you not really screw around with that kind of stuff unless you're going to do something really cool.
Yeah, I'm not big on the St. Patrick's Day jerseys,
and
this year the NHL kind of had a few teams with St. Patrick's Day themed jerseys, and they were just
it's
awful,
just not
awful.
Unless you play in Dublin,
they had the plaid shoulders, which was
because when I think of Ireland, I think plaid,
hideous. But yeah, that I suppose I could probably do it.
Sure,
went long again.
Do we?
That's fine. That'll happen. Do we have anything else?
Yeah, I don't have anything written down. I suppose we could just do final thoughts.
Sure.
While they're good, there's good players. They need to change their culture. That absolutely needs to happen. It's ridiculous, especially here where like fans are forgiving, and at the same time, you can't really have skeletons in your closet because people are so like in tune to what's going on that they'll figure it out. And the Wild just like hide in their little bomb shelter, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't have problems. Everything's good here. Like we're about to blow up."
Look at all these canned goods.
Yeah, I know.
That's so delicious.
It's like, get out, guys.
Got all
so
this
frustrating.
All this canned soup.
Yum. Giles is like, "What's wrong with this, man? I love canned soup."
Hey, yeah, if the rest of the world's in a nuclear apocalypse,
I guess I was wrong on who's going to be assassinated.
Giles is turning his troops, man. He's turning his troops.
Walk outside and start my truck.
I love how Giles literally slumped through this, like, whatever you call that, like, Giles is almost under the table.
Yeah.
I didn't know how long you're going to be sitting here, so I might as well relax.
You got comfy. There's
going to take a nap.
Yeah, I'm getting close.
I don't know. I guess my final thought, I don't know. I think it's kind of setting up for an ugly situation with the Boudreau or bust. Not that fans shouldn't have that mentality, because he's absolutely, as I said, 100% the best fit for this team right now. But if they don't land him, which I assume we'll find out, probably before most people listen to this podcast. But if they don't land Bruce Boudreau, it really creates a very ugly situation for the coaching vacancy, because it's like, then you're either
Torch.
Yeah, then you're either saying, "Hey, Torch, we would have loved to give this job to Bruce Boudreau, but you're still here, right?" So,
and if you're him, you go, "Whatever. I just want a full-time job."
No, and I'm not saying that he turns it down, or
What if he turned it down? What if he's like, "I can't handle anyone here. I've always wanted to be a head coach, but I can't handle this."
No, so it sets up for a really nasty situation, because either you hire Torch and you've got kind of more of the same thing, or you lose out on Boudreau, and then you end up calling up Carlisle or Paul McLean or Kevin Dineen or something like that.
I was always a big fan of Paul McLean, and maybe
I don't think that's a horrible hire.
In Ottawa, he just kind of got the wrong.
Yeah,
the wrong.
That was a weird situation.
But again, it's Ottawa. They're just.
If I guess when you boil it all down, he might be my second choice behind Boudreau. Just because I said before, I'm not a huge fan of bringing Torch back, just because of the culture change aspect of it. I guess if I had to choose, if you don't land Boudreau, maybe McLean is the guy that I hang my hat on then.
Yeah. I guess I have kind of two final thoughts. One is, I was thinking the other day, and you look at the coaches and whatnot on this team, and you got Darby Hendrickson and Andrew Burnett and Richard Park was in the minor leagues, and I kind of had this worry that the Wild are just going to turn into the old boys club like the Twins are, where they just keep bringing everyone back after they retire. And and at some point, I guess I would like to see just kind of a change of pace, because as we're seeing with the Twins, they're just kind of stuck in a rut of mediocrity.
So you're saying Jordan Leopold shouldn't be a coach next year?
No,
you know
really.
What I think that works if you use them in the right capacity, because there is some value in having an old player talking to these minor leaguers and whatnot. I think truly with the Wild, they just need better leadership from anyone wearing a letter and anyone who's a coach and their GM ultimately. And honestly, Fletcher's mentality isn't wrong as long as he doesn't go way off the deep end like he has lately. It is good to be stable and all that.
So what you're saying is next summer, or maybe before the 2017-18 season, Chuck Fletcher is going to bring back Mike Yeo as a roaming minor league instructor.
How funny would that be? I mean, the weird thing is it's a similar situation where Yeo, I think, will not take anything but a head coaching job. Just in that exit interview, that's what it sounded like.
And that makes sense, because he'll get one.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if it would be right now, or I feel like in 3 years he'd be a great coach, and I just don't know what he's going to do for those 3 years. So I could see the Wild being like, yeah, we'll give you a job until you find someone else. I don't know.
That's probably a dangerous situation.
But,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm
just... he goes around being like, Breezy sucks, guys.
Maybe I'm just thinking too hard on that, but maybe, no matter who comes back as the head coach, there may be a change in the assistant and whatnot. But
I think that's almost a guarantee,
And then my last final thought is just a shout-out to everyone who listened to the podcast last week.
It's getting better. It's so good.
Was our most listened to show, dethroning the last podcast that Tom was on as our
really?
Most listened to show.
We passed it up, huh?
So
wow.
Maybe we'll dethrone last week's.
It's amazing what happens when you change your title on iTunes.
Yeah. Get that
By the
nice
way, do we know what
iTunes
episode
spike.
this is? Like, I feel like your numbering
This
is not
is
right.
53.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, well, I can look right now. Yeah,
I'm say it was
pretty
54.
sure it's. We've been wrong many times.
I stopped saying the number at the beginning of the show.
quick.
I don't.
It's just
I don't
up to
wanna-
me to figure it out when it's all. Yeah, this is 53.
I have a quick shout out / question. Have you guys ever been to what is it? It's on my computer. Bad Weather Brewing. It's in St. Paul, like down West 7.
No, I've heard of it, but
check it out. I know Tom Reed's is enticing, and I do love
Wait,
Tom Reed's.
I know where that is.
But
it's right next to where I park.
Bad Weather.
Yeah,
and I would definitely check it out. I think they have it's a fun kind of microbrew scene or whatever, and they do have really good beer, which sometimes is questionable at some of these places, but that place is really good.
I'll have to put on a disguise then.
That's outstanding.
I don't need people to know that I was next door.
You're frequenting other establishments. How dare you?
It was 2 weeks ago. I went to Burger Mo's with some friends to grab a
I'm
burger
not. I'm not even gonna get into this. I'm not allowed in Burger Mo's. That was not entirely my fault.
You'll be Dan's best friend. He hates that place.
No, yeah, it was bad.
Next time Dan's on, we're gonna share that story, and then I'm gonna make fun of him for how dumb it is.
We can do that.
Burger Mo's.
I'm game for that. We've got a lot of summer coming ahead of us here, so we definitely can fill in a whole bunch of nonsense on this podcast.
And then I guess kind of looking ahead in the next few podcasts, we're gonna go over, RFAs, UFAs, trades, the draft. Whatever. We're gonna do an armchair GM segment to what we would do.
You should just sit in denial the whole time.
I'm the armchair GM. I'm not doing anything. This team's great.
Yeah.
Here's what we think should happen, but here's what actually happens. Nothing.
Yeah.
Everything's good, guys.
Yeah. I'm going to re-sign David Jones. I'm going to re-sign Ryan Carter and Jarrett Stoll, and this team's going to the playoffs again
Mike
next year.
Yeo as head coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get the gang back together.
Yep.
But yeah, that'll probably do it for us.
Yeah.
Thanks to Tom for having us here in the Cumulus studios again, despite me crapping on it in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, please don't do this. We like our setup here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was also a treat watching Ben try to get into the back parking lot here.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that was pretty. I thought you were going right over the train tracks.
I thought about it.
Yeah,
I've got four-wheel drive. It's not.
Tom was also worried that you were going to run into the semi.
Yeah, because you were driving fast.
I was a little upset.
Yeah,
I was a little worked up that those two parking lots didn't connect like I thought they did.
You got the speed racer here in an SUV.
I've got a bunch of change that fell out of my ashtray all over my truck now.
But yeah, we'll be back next week at our regular locale. I'll try to be of a non-sober.
Try to be a little lucid.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe we should run a poll on
how drunk people want Giles. Yeah.
Do you like it when I host the show, a little bit plastered, or do you like it when I'm right now?
I'll put that on the show page on wildextra.com.
Oh,
people are going to load you up.
We're going to go 1 beer, 2 beer, 3 beer.
I'm worried if I get too popular, people are going to be like what Russo does when he gets coffee cards at the end. People are just going to send me Reed's gift cards or Grumpy's gift cards or beer or something.
You say it like it's a bad thing, Giles.
I mean, I'm never going to turn down free beer. But
right. Exactly.
I don't know. There's a time when I should probably just try to say no.
Yeah. And just say no, Giles. Yeah. Just say no.
Yeah. There you go. Just say no. That's your title. Just say no.
Good call. I was wondering what that was going to be.
Yeah, I wouldn't have any clue what it would be either. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Thanks to Tom again.
Yes.
We'll have him back. Woohoo. Maybe, I don't know.
Next time something bad happens. Yeah.
When Yo gets hired back.
When the Wild hire Mark Crawford.
Oh God.
No.
But we'll have him back again. And well, you can, of course, you can find Tom at coldomaha.com. And
yes.
He writes there. He covers mainly the Twins and the Wolves. And then he's also on one of about 50 podcasts. So
I'm on many podcasts. Yeah.
At work once, I tried to tabulate how many podcasts you were on. I had to stop. I was just kidding.
His spreadsheet overheated.
That's not good.
I'm giving you a hard time. But that'll wrap it up for this week. So thanks for listening, and we will check back with you again next week.